Hey everybody, I just wanted to make a quick video, hopefully it'll be a quick video, to just talk a little bit about the fasting aspect of the prayer and fasting that will be initiated in January, and also give you a rundown of the different topics that we'll be praying for over the next year. There are 12 topics that the Lord gave me, one for each month. Again, I will repeat that it's not obligatory to participate. It's not obligatory to participate for the year. Like if you just have time to participate for 1 month or 2 months or three or four or whatever it is, it's all good. The purpose of this is to just provide a framework or a means for people who are wanting to pray for this nation to have a structured, organized way to do it. Also to do it in a way that you're not by yourself, but that there's other people praying. There will be parts where we will pray alone, but there will also be moments where we will pray all together corporately online. So like I said, it's totally voluntary, but if you feel moved to pray for this nation, to pray for our communities, to pray for our provinces and cities, your families and whatnot, this is one way that you can do it. So I did mention that fasting was going to be a part of this activity that we're going to be doing. Now there's before you turn off the video, there's different fasts. There's different ways to fast, and the fasting part is not obligatory either. However, we do know that there is a certain weight that fasting adds to prayer. We have examples of people combining prayer and fasting together from the Old Testament to the New Testament. And obviously, if people go through the trouble and through the sacrifice of fasting while they're praying, there has to be a reason for it. Otherwise, why would you make yourself so miserable and so uncomfortable unless you believe that it was going to achieve something? We know that Esther fasted, and the people her people fasted with her for 3 days before she went before Xerxes to speak to him. And we know that Jesus fasted 40 days, and at the end of those 40 days, that's when the enemy came to tempt him. But he had submitted his flesh to the Spirit of God for so long that even in his weakened state, he was able to call upon the Spirit of the Lord and the word of the Lord to rebuke and to deal with the devil, so the devil fled from him. I'll just have a couple of verses here also. One of the ones that I thought was really interesting was in Philippians 3:19, where it says, where is it? They are headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite. They brag about shameful things, etc., etc. But the point that is important here is that as human beings, even though we are saved, our flesh still combats against the spirit. And we unfortunately fall into temptation because of our desires and hunger. Next to fear is one of the most strong compulsions and impulses that we have to fight with. And so when we fast food, that's one of the primary outward demonstrations that we can show to the Lord that we are willing to take the step to deny ourselves so that we can allow the Holy Spirit to have more space and more presence in our lives. And that's basically what we're doing. We're we're exercising our self-control and our will to deny ourselves so that we can take on the bread of life and the water of life. That's what we're feeding ourselves with. So when we feel weak and tired and when we feel uncomfortable, that's part of the process, but we do it because it's a way of showing, Lord, I'm willing to deny myself because I want more of you. I want you to take up more space in my life. I'm denying my flesh so that I can get deeper into relationship with you and know you more. That's the process. And the closer we get to the God in this process, the more he reveals himself to us, and we can enter into a deeper connection and a flow with him. And so that's part of the process. We know that fasting opens doors. It does a lot of really practical things in terms of answered prayer and just giving us the mind of Christ. Because when you're uncomfortable and you're not eating or whatever it is, you replace those meals and that meal time with prayer and reading the word. So you're feeding yourself the word, you're spending time with God, and that's what this relationship really is about. Okay, so I hope that kind of clears up why I feel that fasting is important. But again, fasting can be many things. Sometimes we can't fast food, so it could just be fasting television, it could be fasting social media, it could be fasting you know, if we have a tendency to gossip, maybe being more conscious to stay away from certain people who tempt us to gossip. If we have negative thoughts, it could be to be more conscious to address them every time they come. And that's another way of exerting self-control over your mind. So there's a lot of different things that you can do that can be considered a fast if you can't fast food. And it's not necessary, if you are going to fast food, you don't necessarily have to fast everything. Sometimes it could just be if you have a hard time controlling coffee or sugar, if you have a hard time not taking a second portion, those are ways that you can exercise self-control and exert your will over your body, which is part of godly living anyways. Those are some things you might want to consider as well. The point is to think about it, pray about it, talk to the Lord about it, and allow him to show you what he would like you to sacrifice during these days of fasting. The fasting will be the first 3 days of each month. 1 month it could be coffee, another month it could be all food, another month it could just be one meal a day. Work with the Lord and see what he tells you to do, and go with that. That's what I would say for the fasting. So I had a couple of other verses, but the video is getting a little bit longer than I expected it to be, so I'm going to just cut ahead. If you have any questions, if you want to know what the other verses were, just type it in the chat and I can post those later. I just wanted to go over really quickly the different topics that we will be praying about over the next 12 months. And so the main thing is about division. Division in the country, division in the church, and what the Lord revealed to me was that we have to pray against division and pray in unity. Okay, so the goal is to ask God to tear down the things that are causing division, and for him to build the things that will install unity within the nation and within the church. So the first thing was language, which is a major dividing factor in this nation. The second one would be the relationship between men and women. That's we don't have to talk about that. We see it on the news every day, unfortunately. Then we have immigrants versus natural born. The whole situation with immigration and all that stuff is it's a recurrent thing, and it's again, just read the newspaper and you'll see the different ways that that's become a factor of division in this nation. Then we have youth versus older people, different generations, different mindsets, lack of communication, lack of understanding, a lack of respect also. The next one would be about Quebec's position in Canada, how Quebec sees itself as autonomous, as independent, as whatever it is, where the fact is that God sees Canada as a united country, not as a divided country. The other thing too is not just Canada. We have Saskatchewan, we have Alberta, and even I think at some point there was BC, maybe even Manitoba, that we're talking about separating. So it seems to be a virus that's infecting various provinces, and so definitely that's something we will be praying about as well. We'll be praying about the division between Indigenous peoples and settlers. I'm talking like going back historically, because when you talk about spiritual mapping and you talk about, the sins of the past that led to problems that we're living even now, we have to go back historically. And even now, there's a lot of injustices that the settlers, I'll call it settlers, exert towards the people who were here originally. And that's something that we need to deal with from the past, but also present. Then we have Catholic versus Protestant. I think maybe that's probably more relevant to Quebec, just because, when the French were here, they were primarily Catholic, and when the English came, they were primarily Protestant. And for many years there was a division in Quebec between the Protestants and the Catholics, and we saw that in the school system and everything else, but the vestiges are still there. Then we have division between the rich and the poor. Don't need to talk much about that. Holy versus the secular. We have the whole secularism issues going on right now, and the division of the church and the state, and trying to kick the religion out of everything. So that's something that we will be addressing as well in prayer. We have the church versus other religions, and obviously, I'm not saying that the church has to accept other religions. What I'm saying is that actually this is the one division that needs to remain divided, that the church will not allow mixture, will not allow itself to be infiltrated by the world, by culture, by the desire to please people and to compromise. That's really what that particular point is about. And the last one is divisions in the church, and there are many. The fact that we have 9,000 different denominations when God only sees one church is problematic. So there we go. Those are the main topics we'll be going through. If you have any questions about them, share them in the chat. If the Lord reveals other things, or if it triggers other thoughts or whatever it is, you can add them in the chat as well. These are the 12 that we are going to do, but that doesn't mean that we can't match similar issues together. If the Lord reveals something to you, that's also important. So you just let me know, and we'll deal with that. So the videos are longer than I thought it was going to be, so I'll stop here. But I will be posting either another video or another message at some point the closer we get to January 1st. All right, so God bless and take care. And I hope you guys are doing great. Merry Christmas if I don't see you before Christmas. And anyhow, God bless. Take care. Bye.